I'm going to do part 2 for my previous video because I don't want the video to be too long. I never really know how long people watch my video for. So, yeah, I feel like it's a good idea to do a separate video and just continue talking. And I feel like it's just very important to get your feelings out and just not keep it in, because at the end of the day, right, that's what life is about, is saying how you really feel. And there's just no point, beating around the bush. And I think especially when it comes to love, you have to put yourself first. And I feel like when you're dating and you're having experiences, you don't always put yourself first because you just want to find love. And when you've been single for a long time, it's really hard, and I've just felt like for the longest time, when's it gonna happen for me? Like, when am I actually gonna find my person? Because I'm starting to feel like it's not gonna happen, And there's days where I'm not thinking about love, like I'm not thinking about it. And sometimes I feel like, am I too eager? But I'm a human being and I feel really lonely and it makes me feel sad, It makes me feel very sad just not having someone to share my life with, and I feel really worried that I'm going to get, old and I'm going to be in the same position and, no one can help me, So, yeah, in the past I've cried about it. Obviously, no one wants to cry, but it's definitely made me cry. And, it just seems like, I just know I haven't met, a genuine man. That's it. When it ends in tears and when you're crying, a lot, when you've met someone and they start ignoring you, then, that's extremely sad. And I remember last year, sometimes you just want to take a minute. I remember last year when I met, different guy, basically he started ignoring me. Like, everything was going well at the beginning. And, we went cinema together, I went to his home. And, just, we were doing what you do when you're dating, right? Getting to know each other. We went to the restaurant and to the bar and, all the rest of it. And then he started ignoring me. And I knew he wasn't for me, Like, he was a heavy smoker, he couldn't, really handle his alcohol. And he said to me he likes to do drugs sometimes, so, I knew he was not for me. But I just, stuck around and, it's like, I believe that everyone comes into your life for a reason. But, it's like, it's just an experience, that's it. you know, it's just an experience. I feel like that's all it's been for me. You know, I haven't been in love, you know, I've not felt loved at all, right? And, you know, it's like, that's just my experience, you know, at the end of the day, and that's okay. But it's, you know, a lot of things I feel like you know, sort of have contributed to not finding love, and I think not having a job definitely affects your love life. You know, so you don't have money, you can't go places, and, you know, I really want to go to London more, but I don't have money. Train fares are expensive. And, you know, even just, I mean, I'd only get one drink in the pub, but, you know, it all adds up when you don't have money. So I really hope that I find a job soon, you know, specifically an apprenticeship. But, you know, it's still very stagnant, you know, nothing's changing. And it's like, when someone in my family spoke to a psychic on behalf of me, she did say there's been times that, you know, I've wanted to give up, and it's so true. I think especially when it comes to love, it's like, sometimes it's just too much, you know. I think after a while you just kind of get numb. But, yeah, it's like, it can definitely make you cry. And I really try not to get down about it, right? I really try not to get down. And there's been many times recently where I thought, or from time to time, I thought, what's the point in my life if I don't have anyone? That's it. What's the point? You know? And I shouldn't think like that, right? And, you know, obviously, as you can tell, this has made me upset. And I don't even want to cry, right? And I think I'm actually past the point of crying, which is kind of a good thing. But I just feel really hopeless, guys, you know. I feel so hopeless. Like, I just feel like nothing's nothing's going on, you know. Yeah, it just feels like nothing's working for me, you know. So, yeah, like I said before, I'm not where I want to be in life. Especially with career. And I know my fortune telling, like, I know I have what it takes to become a YouTuber. And, you know, obviously I love to sing, but that's very hard to, you know, it's not easy to become a singer, obviously. But all I'm trying to say is I don't want to get to, you know, 6 years old and be by myself, you know. And it's very sad to feel like you don't have anyone, you know. That's sad to feel like what's the point of living if I haven't got a partner? Yeah? It's like, it's not all about intimacy, it's about having someone by your side, you know? And I feel like I can't, you know, if I'm, like, yeah, I can't just pretend like everything's fine if it's not, you know? And yes, I believe in God, you know, till the day I die. And he's seen me go through a lot in my life. And even, you know, I still, you know, have trauma with things that have happened to me. But I'm a strong person and I've overcome that. But it still hurts, right? It still hurts just knowing what I've gone through, especially with family, conflict, feeling alone, feeling like no one understands me, you know, not finding love. And now it's like made me think that, you know, maybe this is not gonna happen, you know. I didn't even want to cry, but it just makes, like, you know, when you just feel, you just think about what happened, you know? Why am I in this? Why have I been, you know, unlucky, you know? Yeah, that's it really. I don't even feel like I have it in me to, like, cry. Like I said, you know, I've been through some really hard things in my life that, you know, have affected me badly. And I think that your family can cause you a lot of pain. And my family have caused me a lot of pain. I feel like, you know, friendships I've had have caused me a lot of stress and upset, and, you know, meeting men that are not genuine, you know, and then it's like they're the one that finds someone but you don't. And, you know, I do feel like, of course, you know, there is someone out there for everyone, you know. I do feel that. But, you know, I can't be positive about it anymore, you know. That's it. I really can't, you know. And I think it's kind of just, you can, you know, I, like, mentally, you know, you don't want to take it to the extreme where you think, oh, you know, I'm going to be alone forever. But no one wants to be alone forever, you know. And I just think, how, you know. And I think another thing I want to say is, this is why I never cry over any man anymore. Yeah, that's it. When it's over, it's over. Like, I'm gonna go my separate way. Like, I'm gonna go my own way. You know? That's it. Like, I'm not crying over anyone in life. You know? If I cry, it's because of how I feel. And I'm a human being. You know? And my feelings are valid. And that's it. You know? it's like, and it's kind of made me feel that I don't feel like I should talk anymore about my love life, because, you know, whenever I meet someone new, it just seems to go, you know, it just seems to go in the worst direction, you know? That's it. And I think, yeah, you know, I don't want to like go on and like harp on, but it's just kind of like, at the end of the day, like, I know I'm a good person, you know, and I'm not here to prove myself to anyone. That's it. You know, I feel like if you've been single a long time and, you know, you like you tell people what to do when it comes to a woman or man, and you know, have this mentality that you're always right and they're always wrong, then that's why you're single, you know. And I think, basically, I feel like with this guy specifically, you know, he's got a lot of growing up to do, you know. Like, yeah, don't, you know, we didn't know each other that well, right? And we only spent one day together, but it's like, that's it, you know. If you're going to turn on someone so quickly and, you know, start saying stuff that isn't true to hurt them, that's very unfair, you know. That's very unfair. And, you know, I don't ever see, I never view it, when something's over, I never think, oh, like, that was a loss. Never. You know, like, when something just isn't working out or hasn't worked out, then that's it. You know, it's not a loss. It's just you need to go your separate ways, you know, and you shouldn't have to, like I said, change who you are, you know. You really shouldn't. And that's it, you know. I think people that are genuine probably agree with, you know, the things that I say when it comes to love. And I feel like, you know, at the end of the day, right, you never really know when you're going to meet someone, even when you put yourself out there. But I feel like just dating apps are just the worst place, you know. And men that I've spoke to in the past on there, I see them again on Hinge, right? Or on Bumble. So that's when you know that they're the problem, when they're on a dating app again, you know. So I've finally come to the realisation now, which I should have known a long time ago, that I'm not going to meet someone genuine online. Yeah, that's very rare. And even if, you know, you have watching, or you know someone that has, then, you know, good for you, but it won't last, you know. That's it, you know. I think it's just very naive to, you know, put yourself in a dating app and think that, you know, you're going to meet the one, you know. Like, for me, it's like, I'm only on there to kind of just pass time, right? That's it. Like, I'm not actually thinking I'm going to meet someone, like, my person, you know. I think that all you're going to get off dating apps is just experiences, you know, and it's like, I'm not looking for that, you know. So, yeah, I think when you're not aligns with someone, it will end. And I feel like if you're starting to think that this person you've just met, you're not sure if you're like attracted to them fully, you know, or at all, and you know, you're not sure if they're really right for you, then it's not gonna work. And I think in addition to that, I've definitely learned that, you know, I don't feel like if I'm not really really attracted to someone, to a man, and he's not really my type, then it's not gonna work. That's it, you know. I feel like this guy I met, he's not what I would go for, you know. And obviously I never said that to him, I'm not cruel, you know. But, you know, I know that, you know, even my fortune telling says, oh, you know, fall for someone that isn't your type. I know sometimes, you know, that's what they say, right? But I personally think you should stick to your type, you know, because I feel like if you go for someone that isn't your type, you might not feel attracted to them. And that's how I felt with this guy, you know, like I just wasn't really that attracted to him, you know what I mean? And I feel like that person, just because that person, you know, has a good personality and is very caring, you know, before you realise that, you know, they're a horrible person, it's so hard not to swear. Sometimes you gotta just let it out. But basically, you know, looks do come first, you know, like I just can't be with a man if I'm not attracted to him. That's just wrong, you know, like that's not gonna work, you know. I feel like even if you're like, you know, even if you're attracted to them a little bit, it's still not gonna work, because it's just like common sense, guys, you know, like attraction is like the most important. And I've definitely learned that, you know, I'm just not gonna go for a man that isn't my type anymore, you know. Because sometimes, you know, you do meet someone and they're not your type, but you really do vibe and you have a really good time together. But I think that's my non-negotiable, you know, that I have to stick to my type, really, which is tall, dark and handsome, basically. And I only prefer, like, I prefer English guys, like I said before, but, you know, just in case you wanted to know. I love American men as well, but, you know, I don't live in America, so it's not like I'm gonna find an American man. But, yeah, I do like to stick to English. There's been times where I thought, you know, could I find someone better? You know, like at the end of the day, I'm not looking for a perfect man, but, you know, I want to find a good man, basically. And yeah, there's been times where I thought, you know, am I actually going to, you know, experience proper love with an English man, because they have got issues, you know. And yeah, like, I feel like they are, like, some of them are very caring and loving, right? But I think when it comes to, like, treating a woman with respect, you know, they don't do that, you know? Like, it's very easy to, you know, as a man, put your hand on a woman's thigh and, you know, put your hand on a woman's back and, you know, hug them and, you know, do all these supportive gestures. But, you know, it's like, it doesn't mean that you're going to treat them well, you know? So, obviously, I want someone that's loving and caring, and I do feel like, you know, yeah, I do feel like the Englishmen I've met, because I can only talk from my own experience, like, have been very caring and, like, they show a lot of affection, you know. Like, with this guy, he was showing a lot of affection and, you know, he was being really supportive, which was really nice. But obviously, you know, he became really disrespectful, and that's where I draw the line, you know. And I'm not here to give people second chances. That's it. It's like, I am who I am, and you have to take people for who they are. You know, if you're trying to change a woman or man, then you're never going to find anyone. That's it. So, I also want to say, in addition to that, you know, I don't believe in reconnection, because I know that does happen in love. You know, some people do reconnect with their ex, or with someone that, you know, they dated or they just met. Like, I don't believe in reconnection, you know, like, I used to, but I don't, because I feel like when someone, you know, when your time's ended with someone, that's it, you know. Like, I don't feel that, you know, you're meant to be in each other's life. So I thought I'd also mention that, you know, that I don't, you know, want someone back in my life if they treat me badly, you know. No matter how much of a good time we've had, it just, you know, it just goes against what I believe in, and it wouldn't be fair to myself, you know. So, I only believe in reconnection if, you know, you was in a proper, like, I don't know how to explain it, like, I only believe in reconnection if you let go over something silly, not an argument, basically. You know, that's when I believe in reconnection. But, yeah, you know, it's like, life goes on, and that's it. I don't spend my time dwelling on things, you know. It's all about moving forward and just allowing, you know, the right persons to come in my life, and I know I'll find that. But it just hasn't happened yet, you know. So, yeah, I hope this video, you know, has resonated or helped anyone listening that may also be single, or, you know, has been single a long time. And I feel like it's really comforting when, you know, you're listening to someone else talk about their love life, and they're, you know, saying how much they've struggled and they just want to find love, and they seem like a genuine person and they've got pure intentions. So, yeah, unfortunately, when you're a genuine person, it's going to be really hard for you to find, you know, someone genuine. And I still think that. And I think also, you know, if you're famous, it's obviously going to be 10 times harder for you than a, you know, non-famous person. So, yeah, there are factors that can, make finding love difficult, but at the end of the day, we all just want to find love, like we want to be treated right, and it shouldn't be this hard, like it just shouldn't be difficult at all. And I don't think it's fair that, some people just find love and, they're treated right, but you're not, like I don't agree with that. Like, yeah, I just feel like I said before, love shouldn't be easy for anyone, and I think it's like some women, especially in the public eye, I feel like, they just can't be single, and then they get really down and hopeless about, not finding love, and then it's like, if you've never been single, I think you need to take a step back and like learn to be single, that's what I'm trying to say. Like when you've been in a relationship constantly, you don't need to be with someone, like you need to take time to just focus on you, really. So I do get this impression that people in the public eye, like some people in the public eye, I do feel like, they think that, like, they think that they're going to find the one, but, it's obviously, like, it's hard to, like, explain it, but, yeah, all I'm trying to say is, like, when you've been in a relationship constantly, it's like, you just don't need to be with someone, that's it. So, there's a big difference between being single for a long time and not being single for a long time, and then, crying about, not finding love when have you actually been single, So, yeah, that's why I'm not, like, I don't idolise anyone in the public eye, because,